Patchwork is a modern classic published by the Asmodee studio Lookout Games. The designer Uwe Rosenberg is best known for many of his other, much larger and more complex classics, like Agricola, Caverna, and A Feast for Odin. And although I would say all of his games are elegant designs, Patchwork is probably the best example of this that can be played in 30 minutes or less. In this game, two players compete to stitch together the most beautiful quilt. But doing this takes time and a whole lot of buttons for some reason. So let's get to it. To set up the game, first place this board in the center of the table. This is the central time board. You can choose whichever side you like better. There's no gameplay difference. Then, you'll place all of these little leather patches on the corresponding spaces. Next, place out all the rest of the patches in a large circle around the central board. Make sure each piece is followed by another, kind of like a little train of Tetris pieces. This is the neutral token. Find the smallest patch, this little 1x2 piece, and then place the neutral token between that patch and the next one clockwise. Then, set out the buttons and the bonus tile within reach of both players. These are the time tokens, one for each player. Choose which color will represent each player, yellow or green, and then pick the first player. You can do what the rulebook says and choose the player who most recently used a needle. Or you can just shake these up in your hands and place one on top of the other randomly. The player whose token is on top will start. Give each player their corresponding quilt board and 5 buttons. And now we're ready to begin. Your goal in this game is to collect as many buttons as possible, while filling your quilt board with patches as efficiently as possible before you run out of time. Each button you collect will gain you a point at the end of the game, and each uncovered space on your quilt board will lose you 2 points at the end of the game. First thing you gotta know is players in this game don't necessarily alternate between turns. Instead, whoever's time token is farther behind will keep taking turns until their token passes their opponent's. And if the tokens are stacked, then whoever's token is on top will take the next turn. On that turn, you have a choice. You can take and place a patch on your board, or you can advance your token to receive buttons. If you choose to take a patch, take a look at the neutral token. You can choose from the 3 patches in front of that token in clockwise order. Choose a patch and then place the neutral token next to your chosen patch. Then, move your time token forward this many spaces on the central time board. Then, just pay this many buttons to the general supply. If you can't pay the button cost, you can't take that patch. After the costs are paid, you can then place your patch anywhere you'd like on your quilt board. Each patch must be contained within the board, so no hanging pieces. Don't do that. It's bad. And once you've decided where it will go, it basically becomes stitched in place, meaning once it's placed, you can't move it. Now, if you're looking at your options and you can't afford any of the patches that you have access to, now would probably be a good time to advance your time token to receive buttons. To do this, move your token on the time board so that it occupies the space directly after your opponent's token. Then, just take 1 button from the supply for each space you moved. There are a couple of things that could happen any time that you move your time token. This means they will happen whether you're paying time or just advancing your token to receive buttons. You could pass a button, or you could pass a special patch. Anytime you pass a button, you'll receive button income. This means you receive one button from the supply for each button present on your quilt board. Just count them all up and take that number of buttons from the general supply. Remember, whenever you buy a patch, you pay time first, which means you can advance your time token to receive income, and then use that income to pay for the patch. These special patches are first come, first serve. The first player to pass any of these patches immediately takes it and places it on their board wherever they would like. And just like any other patch, once it's placed, it stays. These things can happen multiple times in a turn, so just take them one at a time when they happen. Speaking of first come, first serve, this bonus tile is worth 7 points at the end of the game. It is awarded to the first player to fill a perfect 7x7 square of spaces on their quilt. The moment any player achieves this, they take the bonus tile and place it next to their board. The game will be over once both time tokens have reached the last space of the time track. If a time token were to move past this space, it simply stops there. This means if you purchase a patch that would take you beyond this space, you just advance until you reach it. And if you are advancing to receive buttons, you advance to the end, and you only receive buttons equal to the number of spaces you actually move. And always remember to take income normally for the last button on the track. Once the game is over, each player will count 1 point for each of the buttons they have collected. Add 7 points if they collected the bonus tile, and subtract 2 points for each uncovered space on their quilt board. I like to do this by just returning 2 buttons to the supply for each open space, and then counting the remaining buttons and adding the bonus tile. Whoever has the most points left has, objectively, created the most beautiful quilt, and therefore has won the game. If there is a tie, the player who reached the final space of the time track first takes the victory. And that's how you play Patchwork. Please comment on this video if you have any questions or feedback, and we will respond as soon as we are able. Patchwork is one of many great, simple 2-player games we have here. So come on down and try this and over 500 other awesome games like it at Great Oaks Tavern.